Thank you for joining me for part 2 of Blood Betrayal, how Nixon sabotaged Vietnam peace talks to win election. To understand the richness of this story and to better appreciate what is going on, the full background, you need to listen to part 1 first. Here in part 2, President Johnson turns to a mentor and close friend, Senator Richard Russell, Democrat of Georgia, to help him solve one of the most challenging problems of his presidency. Having spent 6 months trying to convince North Vietnam to 1. Negotiate with the South Vietnamese in Paris, 2. Stop shelling civilians in South Vietnamese cities, and 3. Respect the demilitarized zone dividing Vietnam, all in return for a halt to U.S. bombing, Johnson has seemingly finally succeeded, only to find out the presidential nominee, Richard Nixon, is secretly urging Saigon to boycott the Paris peace talks, and in fact, we know Nixon's ruse worked, and he did sabotage the talks. I certainly don't want to leave the impression that peace was at hand, even though the Russians were pressing the North Vietnamese for peace. Author Max Hastings throws cold water on that idea, saying,
"The Russians, desperate to stop paying bills for the North's war effort, pleaded with Hanoi to show flexibility, and were rebuffed." Dobrynin wrote, "In Moscow there was no less consternation than in Washington." Privately, many Soviet Politburo members cursed the Americans, Chinese and Vietnamese for their unwillingness to seek a compromise. Brezhnev once told me angrily that he had no wish to sink in the swamps of Vietnam. The U.S. administration sustained its delusions that Russia could end the war if it chose, especially when the Chinese became so immersed in the domestic horrors of Mao's Cultural Revolution that in 1969 they withdrew almost all their personnel from Vietnam. Washington repeatedly urged Moscow to accept an intermediary role. The Soviets reiterated wearily that the U.S. must deal bilaterally with the Northerners. The Americans could not understand, wrote Dobrynin, that however much Russia wanted peace, when it faced a Chinese challenge for leadership of the socialist world it could not withdraw support from its most notable revolutionary clients. Moscow was so convinced that a presidential election victory for Hubert Humphrey would end the war that its envoys vainly implored LeDuan to give the Democratic candidate a diplomatic break. The specter of Richard Nixon persuaded the Russians to go even further. They offered Humphrey's campaign secret financial support, which was politely refused.
But the real point is that a presidential candidate conspired with a foreign government to win election and sabotaged a peace effort while people were dying, regardless of the peace effort's chances of success. This conversation takes place 6 days before the 1968 presidential election on the morning of Wednesday, October 30th. As always, I apply audio filters to try to clean up the sound quality, but like with a blemished apple, one can only improve the quality so much. As you know from part 1, I have 3 more conversations on this topic coming up, 2 of those being bracing calls between Johnson and Nixon.
Hello.
Good morning, Mr. President.
How are you, my friend?
Good. I'm sorry about the phone being off the hook upstairs. Everybody running around here trying to fix it. The upstairs phone just said somebody left it.
That indicates you got some children in the house.
No.
Well, that every phone's off the hook at my place when I got that 16-month grandson.
Yeah,
He's a mechanic. He works on it all the time.
He's an inquiry. He got an inquiring mind. Goes into things, see what it's all about.
Well, I've got one this morning that's pretty rough for you. We have found that our friend, the Republican nominee, our California friend, has been playing on the outskirts with our enemies and our friends both, our allies and the others. He's been doing it through rather subterranean sources here. And he has been saying to the Allies that you're going to get sold out watch Yalta and Potsdam and two Berlins and everything. And they're going to recognize the NLF, and I don't have to do that. You better not give away your liberty just a few hours before I can preserve it for you. One or two of his business friends divulged it first a couple of days ago, about the time he made the statement, that he had rumors that the staff was selling out, but he did not include me in it. You saw that, didn't you?
Yeah, but he sort of retracted that, didn't
Well, no. Laird put that out, traveling with him. They have 3 planes, and he's on a separate plane, and his job is to spread rumors and background the press. They all like him because he's strong for health and education and welfare on that HEW committee. And so the press likes him, and he puts that out. Nixon comes along and says, now I have heard this, but I do not believe it. In other words, I do not believe Laird. I believe the president is not crooked. They say he is, but I don't believe he is. And he becomes a very strong defender of the president. The press resents it. They come back and say, well, hell, if you don't believe it, why did your man put it out? The man who wrote the story is very reliable, Merriman Smith. He's covered the White House under 4-5 president. But that is what happened. The next thing that we got our teeth in was one of his associates, a fellow named Mitchell, who was running his campaign, who was real Sherman Adams of the operation. In effect, said to a businessman that we're going to handle this like we handle the Fortis matter, unquote. We're going to frustrate the president by saying to the South Vietnamese and the Koreans and the Thailanders, beware of Johnson. At the same time, we're going to say to Hanoi, I can make a better deal than he has because I'm fresh and new, and I don't have to demand as much as he does in the light of past positions. Now, when we got that pure by accident as a result of some of our Wall Street connection, that caused me to look a little deeper.
I guess so.
And I have means of doing that, as you may well imagine. And Mrs. Chenault is contacting their ambassador from time to time. Seems to be kind of the go-between, the Chiang Kai-shek deal. In addition, their ambassador is saying to them that Johnson is desperate and is just moving heaven and earth to elect Humphrey. So don't you get sucked in on that. He is kind of these folks' agents here, this little South Vietnamese ambassador. Now this is not guesswork.
Well, I didn't understand exactly how Taiwan got in it.
Well, Mrs. Chenault, you know,
I didn't understand just what Chang had to do with it.
Well, I don't know that he has anything except just generally that lobby. It may be Walter Judd. I know it's her. Miss Chenault, you know, of the Flying Tigers. She's young and attractive. I mean, she's a pretty good-looking girl. And she's around town. And she is warning them to not get pulled in on this Johnson move. Then he, in turn, is warning his government. Then we, in turn, know pretty well what he's saying out there. So he is saying that, well, that he's got to play it for time and get it by the next few days. Now, the Soviets are climbing the wall, and Hanoi is, and of course our people in Paris are, because they have agreed that they will let the GVN come to the table. That has been the thing we've insisted on. They have met our demands. The Soviets have said that they understand that we're going to resume if they violate the DMZ, and we can see that immediately after we make the announcement whether they are or not. We have reserved the right for reconnaissance, and we've made it clear that it's act of force and not act of war in our announcement. And we got South Vietnam and all the allies aboard on a one day. We'd announce it one day and meet the next. But Hanoi wanted more time, so they demanded a couple of weeks, and then 10 days, and then a week, and we wouldn't do it because we thought that Saigon couldn't stand to wait that long between the time of the announcement and the time of the meeting. So we insisted on one day because Hanoi had said that productive discussions could begin the next day. So we took them at the word. About that time, Humphrey made a fool speech in which he said that he would stop the bombing without a comma or semicolon. He'd just make it period.
Kill the whole thing.
Well, it did for 10 days, and then Bundy made a fool speech. And they had to, all of them, dissect that and take it.
Made them in reverse order, though, didn't
Yes. But it's the Adlai Stevenson group, and they just get the tail over the dashboard right at the right time. They do the wrong thing every time, but we wore that out. We got it back on the track, and in getting it back on the track, meantime Nixon gets scared to death, so he gets into the thing. And it gets off the track at the other place. Now, everybody had approved the one-day thing. Then they came along and approved the 3-day thing, and the actual, right down to the wording of the announcement, a joint announcement to be made by the two of us. And it was all agreed upon, all satisfactory. Then Nixon gets on, says, "I know you're selling out now, just wait a few days." And you can't trust Johnson may want to, really, he's gonna pat the North Vietnamese NLF on the back just like Roosevelt did the Russians. And that scares them. So then they come back.
he get that word to them?
He gets it through their ambassador here. And they really think that he's just been mad that something's going to happen this election. He's just not erratic at all. Now, I've played no politics with him and not going to, and I've given Humphrey more hell in the joint meetings than I have Nixon. Nixon's been pretty responsible. But I don't want to pass up an opportunity and just sit here on my fanny till he comes in and let him just pick up like Eisenhower did the Korean thing and say, well, I did so-and-so. Same time, I don't want another day to go that I don't have to when I get what I've asked for. Now, the situation I'm in now is the effect of letting Chu say, well, we got to have more time. First, he says we haven't got enough time to get a delegation there. Second, this Key gets in it, and Key says that he thinks that we're really winning militarily and just give a few more days and we'll have everything. And then the Key demands that rather than have a coup, that he be the advisor in Paris. And we've got all those things. Now, we have put off, and we are trying to bring them aboard. After we had them aboard on both times,
I thought they were pretty firm.
they were all firm. Now, Abrams came in before I'd finally make up my mind, and he spent several hours with me, just he and I, and then he met with the group. But he not only recommends, he urges me to take this action with or without them. That we cannot do any good in the North for the next 90 days anyway, that we need this power in South Vietnam And we need this power in Laos. And in any event, the guarantees that we get on the DMZ, if they carry them out all right, if they don't, we're not bound. But what we would get at the DMZ, which will be reflected in 2 hours after we make the announcement, what we would get there and what we'd get by immunity from the cities would permit him to go through the countryside, and with the psychological advantage of having these fools at the parish meeting kind of wrap up the country. And he says, from a strictly military standpoint, that this military power is no good for 90 days on account of your weather. That it is needed and will be used. Now, you either get something for it or you don't, because he's going to use it anyway. 90% of it in Laos and South Vietnam, even if it didn't issue an order here, he would do it there, because he says it's unlikely that you'll get more than 1 or 2 days a month that you can do anything.
Well, they've been giving out a whole lot of reports I couldn't understand about how they saw they hit a truck and all that.
Well, they've had 10 days, and we're coming to the end of that last 10 days.
I see.
And by the time we put the thing in to have the meeting, why, there won't be much change. In any event, he says this thing has changed so radically since last August that not only do we no longer endanger our men, that this gives them much more protection they'd have if we just followed the existing policy. Now, I've heard all that, and I've seen all that in cables, but I just didn't take it. I made him come in. And he is much stronger than even any of your Joint Chiefs. His general statement was very much along the line of McConnell's, if you remembered.
Yes, I do quite well.
So we thought that it was all gone already. Then at noon yesterday, Chu comes in and says no. And now the question is, do you leave him and Korea and Thailand, or they'll all hang together, they're scared to death, these fellas, so forth. So we've tried to get them back on board. We don't think they're going to come in the light of the Nixon thing. We did.
Nixon, I never did have any comments with him, but damn if I thought he'd stooped anything like that.
Well, it may be his agents. All we know is I saw him on television this morning in Syracuse last night. And he says that this conference must be broadened to include the Soviet. Well, we're talking to them every day, 2 or 3 times a day.
I doubt they really want to be in it.
They wouldn't be in it. They wouldn't come to it. And he just makes an ass of himself. They have to act. They're scared to death, the Chinese, and everything they do is subterranean. But there's no question what they're in it. I made him Sunday night go back to Kosygin and say that he understood that I was doing this on his, for his full knowledge, and the problem I would have on DMZ and the cities, and he better understand that, and not charge me with deceit, because if they didn't abide by it, I was going to hit them. And he came back and said that my doubts about their abiding by it were not justified. So he is in it, but Nixon says that the Soviet ought to be brought in, and he says other Asian countries must come to the conference. Well, a few hours later, this was last night, but this morning at 9 o'clock, we get a wire from Korea saying they ought to be in the conference. So he's kind of playing with the Asians, you see, to divide us, and they're trying to do what the Hanoi has been unable to do for 5 years. Divide me from Korea and Thailand and so forth. And that's this damned election. Therefore, what I think seriously I will do is this. The South Vietnamese have no good reason for not coming. They say they need more time. So I think instead of saying that we...
2, 3 months, I don't know what they do at the time.
Well, they say they got to get a delegation, all that. I think I'll say to them, well, I'll give you the meeting, the next meeting we'll have now, normally comes up Wednesday. We had one today. That gives you a full week. Now, they said 3 or 4 days ago that they'd need a week, 10 days, 2 weeks. Well, we'll give you a full week. Now, we're going to stop in the next few hours. And we're going to make an announcement of that. And we're going to say that we have understood that you could be present at this meeting a week from now. And we hope you're there. But in any event, we're not going to let you force us to keep on bombing when we don't want to, and when we've got a chance to get them to lay off the DMZ, and when we've got a chance to get them to lay off the cities, and when we got a guarantee that you can attend the meeting. Now, we just got to be that blunt. If they come aboard, all well and good. If they don't, why, we're just in shambles, I guess. But I don't think I could defend the people of this country, that I had everything I'd asked for, and then this son of a bitch vetoed it.
No, I don't see how he refused to come aboard.
Well, he does, though.
Damn it, I just tell him, well, if he wasn't going to complain about him now, we just get out and leave the window over there and let him settle it.
Well, then I've carried on 5 years, a pretty big failure, haven't I?
Well, I don't think so. I think they can been accepted everywhere that the reason we're in there is because they want us. They don't want us. Well, by God, our manners not that bad. The fellow who did this there with me said, get out now. We said, well, you welcome me here, and I thought I was welcome, but if I'm not, of course I'll leave.
Well, what I'm thinking seriously of doing, I have not talked to any other legislator or anybody outside of my little group. And you weren't in it, and I just thought you could get an independent evaluation of how screwy it sounded to you. What I've thought of doing would be to say to them this morning, both in Paris and in Saigon, that I'm going to say tonight or tomorrow morning that I am stopping this action, that I have agreed with the other side to meet in Paris on the 6th, that's the day after the election, at our next regular meeting, next Wednesday. That they have agreed the GVN can be there. That's what I've insisted on for years. And I've notified them of this fact. Now, I will background, I can't say it publicly, but I'll tell the 2 or 3 reporters confidentially, kind of let them leak it out, that they ought to watch the DMZ the next few days. And I would think 24 hours they'll be writing stories that obviously Johnson got peace on the DMZ, and to watch the cities. Now, if I get peace there, all right. If I don't, I can still bomb. In any event, I will have stopped it and will announce that we'll have this meeting. And then if they come aboard, all right. And if they don't, why, I just... I
don't see how they can afford not to.
Well,
they may.
Well, I suppose they don't. Where am I? If they don't come aboard and Korea doesn't come aboard, I'd think they'd just be so afraid of not having Uncle Sam out there that they just couldn't do it. But they might think they'd have Nixon. Well, they don't understand their constitutional system, and they may think they got Nixon. You know, in their country, when something changes, the whole outfit changes. They don't realize they'll have you and Fulbright and all the Congress that I've had. And they think that they get Nixon, they get all of Nixon's policies. Now, Nixon's not going to be able to be much harder than I've been.
Well,
and I don't believe publicly Nixon can take us on anyway. Now, it will. He may have a little sense.
His public statements haven't been too bad,
No.
what I've heard.
No, that's right.
At least I heard him pointing out in, I think I did in one speech where he's supporting you much better than Humphrey was.
Oh, yeah, he says that, but then he says that everybody...
I understand this unhanded stuff, I see that.
It's just like my getting up and saying, I know Dick Russell. They say that Dick Russell is so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so, but I really don't believe that.
Yeah.
If you didn't believe...
Make the accusation yourself and then deny it.
That's right.
Well, that's a sweatbox for sure. I just don't see how that South Vietnamese government though can stay out of it.
Well, don't you see this, that if...
They admitted to the table. That's all they've been insisting on.
How can I carry on, though, a bombing when every one of my Joint Chiefs, and including Abrams, say that from a military standpoint, it's even better that I go the other route at this time? And the only thing they want assurance of is that I would resume it if I didn't get these actions that we expect to follow DMZ and cities.
Well, it'd be very difficult. Be very difficult. What is your old man out there?
Bunker?
Yeah, what does he think about it?
He wants to give them this week that I'm giving them. He says this morning to give them a week, and that calls their bluff, and that gives them plenty of time. It's not important when they show up at this meeting if we give them a week. We were going to have the meeting November the 2nd. He said move it back to the 6th or 7th. And he and Abrams both have been heartily for this and had him aboard. But this other thing came into it.
Does Bunker know what disturbed him?
No, I don't think so. I don't think we have gotten him all the intercepts and things. We have, though, Chew's talks to his people and so forth, and he knows that. He knows part of it. But I've ordered them all sent out to him this morning. But you see, it's only natural. Now, you look at it from Chew's standpoint. He was...
Like getting something for nothing.
He was staying with me, and he was supporting me, and he was going along with it. Then this guy comes in and said, now let me show you here. Humphrey says that he's going to stop it, period, without any comma or semicolon. Now, I'm not going to do that. Humphrey says that he's not going to let you veto anything he does. Well, I'm going to work with you. So there's that man looking at two horses. A bay and a black, and there's no question what Nixon's statements are better for him than the other ones. So he thinks all he got to do is just hold out 2 or 3 days, and he's in clover.
Well, he hasn't got anything to lose because even if Humphrey is elected and Nixon loses, well, he hasn't lost anything.
Mm-hmm.
He just took a gamble.
That's right. I think I'm going to move ahead unless you see some reason I shouldn't.
Well, I don't see any, but it sure is a confused picture, Mr.
Yes, it is, but we can't.
That's the most confused one
And it's going to be more. It's going to be more confused when the Koreans and the Thais and all your allies say you did it just for election purposes. But one thing, the meeting doesn't take place till after the election.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think that helps a little.
I think that does. That takes some of the curse off, anyhow.
But the announcement comes beforehand. And they say, why didn't you do it before? And I'm going to say, well, because it's Sunday nights when I got the assurances I wanted. And I had them confirmed by Abrams yesterday. And if they want to come with me, all right. If they don't, go with me. Okay, I just want the feel of it.
So, well, I'm glad to get it, and I'll ponder it a little more. It looks to me like I just don't see how they can stay out.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see how they can possibly stay out, because you're going to be the president until January 20th anyhow.
You wouldn't let him veto you if you were me, would you?
No, sir, I wouldn't.
Thank you. Goodbye.
I would have been hard as hell with it, both this about.
I have. Thank you.